Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing the cards I made using Love From Lizi's October 2020 card kit. The theme is Happiness is Homemade. This is a food or kitchen related kit. Perfect for making cards, scrapbook pages, or even a mini album. As I'm recording this voiceover, the kit is still available. I will add an update in the description box when it sells out, since Lizi's kits sell out every single month. So let's go ahead and get started with the first card. I'm using a sketch from MFT. This is number 507. I thought this sketch was really fun with that large oval in the background. So I have some floral paper for that background piece. And then for the oval, I have some teal paper with some white flowers on it. It's the back side of the 12 by 12 paper that's included in the kit. I'm going to layer all of this using some teal cardstock. And this is not cardstock that's included in the kit. This is just some that I have on hand. And it's really pretty. It has a slight pearlescent finish on it. Next, I'll add a couple of peel-offs to the lower portion of the card. I'm going to use the medium width and also the thinnest width. And this is a new peel-off color. It's strawberry glitter. It's really pretty. And I do like to cut the peel-offs just a little bit wider than the card panel, and then I just tuck the ends behind just to make sure it's not going to come off later. So I'll add this panel onto that cardstock layer, put my card front onto a card base. If you are interested in any of the card sketches I use, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post, and that link is provided in the description box below. For the cardstock layers, I add an additional 1/8 of an inch to the measurements that are listed on the sketch. Now for this banner on the right hand side, I'm just using some more of that teal cardstock, and then I have a thin strip of some pattern paper. It's a cream color and it has some tone-on-tone polka dots. Before I attach it to my card, I did add some scrap cardstock underneath the top and lower portion just to keep all of the pieces level. Now I'm going to add 2 of the ephemera pieces. The kit includes a ton of ephemera. I love this piece with the 2 cutting boards, and I just used some liquid adhesive to glue it down directly onto the card. And then for the sentiment, I'm going to pop it up using some thin foam squares. And I'm attaching both of the pieces at a slight angle, just for some extra interest. Now for some finishing touches, I used the small heart die that's included in the kit, and then also some gold pearlescent paper that was an add-on from last month. It's actually still available, so I will add a link in the description box for that. I love using Lizi's specialty paper. Just put the 2 hearts above the word recipe. And since recipe isn't really a sentiment, I decided I would stamp it on the inside of the card. And the sentiment is, cooking is love made visible. Isn't that a fun sentiment? And I'll also add just a thin strip of pattern paper to the inside for a little extra detail. I wanted to add a little more sparkle to the ephemera pieces, so I'm using a glitter brush by scrapbook.com. I add it to the flower and also the cup, and later I do add it to the lemon as well. So there is my finished card, and that is card number 1. Now moving on to card number 2. The sketch is from MFT. It's number 174. Now for this card, I'm using the same pattern paper that I used in card number 1, but I'm going to do a different sketch. So I have that floral paper for the background. I use a stitched square die to cut out this teal flower paper, layering it in that same teal cardstock, but for the background piece, I'm going to layer it in some red cardstock. And this is cardstock that's included in the kit. I did decide to round the bottom 2 corners. And then I was going to add a couple of peel-offs to the bottom of the card, just like I did on card number 1. But I realized it was going to go right between those 2 large flowers on the bottom, so I changed my mind. Go ahead and add my panel onto that cardstock layer. And then I'm using this gold or mustard colored cardstock for the banner that goes across the middle. Now on this sketch, it does have that banner going off of the edge of the card, but I did make it shorter since I want to be able to fit it inside an A2 size envelope. I am putting those scrap pieces of cardstock on the very outside edges just to keep everything level. Attach it to the center of that square. Put my card front onto a card base. Make sure to round the corners on the card base as well so it all matches. Now for the 3 circles, I did decide to cut the one in the center larger than the 2 on the outside. And the reason I did that is I'm going to be adding some of the stickers, and it has a larger image, so I wanted to make sure everything still fits. So I'm going to glue down the outside circles first, and then I'll pop up this larger center circle. And I used some of the gold pearlescent paper for those circles, just for some extra shimmer. Now I'm pulling out the 12 by 12 sticker sheet that's included in the kit, and they have 3 different sets of mushrooms. So I thought that would be fun to put across the card. After placing the 3 stickers down, it felt out of balance. So I'm going to pull up the outside 2, then I'll put the yellow set on the right hand side. And then I decided to cut off the extra mushrooms next to that green mushroom, and then I'll just tuck the end underneath that larger circle. Then I'll do the same on the yellow by tucking just the edge underneath that gold circle. I decided not to add a sentiment to the front of the card, so I'm going to put it on the inside. And this sentiment is "Let's eat." Thought that worked perfectly with all of the mushrooms on the front. So just some finishing touches, I'm going to use some of the sequins from the kit, and I'm just selecting the red. I didn't feel like the other colors really matched the pattern paper on this card. I'm using my embellishment wand to help pick up those small embellishments. I'll put 2 of them in the lower right hand corner. I'm trying to figure out where I want to put the others. I end up putting 1 underneath the green mushroom and then 2 above the other clusters of mushrooms. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 2. Now moving on to card number 3. This is a sketch from Mojo Monday. It's number 533. The kit includes a 12 by 12 sheet full of fun image and sentiment tags. So I'm going to use the oven. I have some red paper with polka dots for the background, and I'm going to layer this twice. But first I'm going to add some solid cardstock for the other elements on this sketch. So I have that teal paper for that piece going on the left, and then using this gold cardstock for the strip going across the card. And I am modifying the sketch measurements quite a bit for this card. I used a strip of this fun pattern paper that kind of looks like a backsplash for a kitchen. And I'm going to add a couple of peel-offs. I was going to use the red from the kit, changed my mind, and I decided to use the teal mirror peel-offs. Just using the thinnest width. I'm using up a lot of my small scraps. It's always good to hang on to those, especially since the center of this strip is going to be covered up with the tag. Then I'll layer this panel on that yellow gold cardstock. I think the name of it is Gold Coins. It's made by Basil. Then I'll layer this piece onto some black cardstock. Thought it added a little extra contrast. Put my card front onto a card base. And this time I'm not going to have any of the white card base showing. Next, I'll trim off the corners for the tag. I'll use a hole punch to cut out the hole on the tag. And then I'm going to attach this onto some scrap cardstock just for some extra stability. I'll use ATG tape on the back and then trim away the extra so you're not going to see any of that cream colored cardstock. Then I'll use my hole punch to cut another hole through that extra cardstock. I'll still add some scrap cardstock to the upper portion of the tag where it goes off of that strip on the card, just keeping everything nice and level. And I do end up adding 2 pieces. This cream cardstock is just some I have on hand and it's fairly thin. And I am going to use some of the ribbon that's included in the kit. This is the teal color. I'm going to loop it through twice so that I have a little extra ribbon showing through the top of that tag. And then just to make sure it's not going to slip off later, I'm going to put a small piece of Scor-Tape on the back side. This ribbon is a satin feel, so sometimes it can be a little slick. Trim off the extra tails. I don't want them hanging too far off of the card. To trim them just a little bit more once I held it up to the card. Now I'll put some ATG on the back side because I decided not to pop up this tag. I'll attach it to the card. And next I'll start working on the sentiment. And I've already gone ahead and stamped it out. Used some more yellow cardstock and red ink. And this sentiment is my favorite on the whole set. This is Bake the World a Better Place. And I just did a fussy cut all around the words on that sentiment. And then I'll attach it to the left side of the oven. Again, adding just those small scraps of cardstock, keeping everything nice and level. And I did have to put 2 pieces. Then I'll use some liquid adhesive to adhere it in place. Lizi always has fun stamp sets included in her kits. And you can always buy just the stamp set the following month after release. So for the November release, you'll be able to buy this stamp set. Finishing touch, I'm going to use some of the mini circle peel-offs in the teal mirror color. I'm going to put a couple of them in the upper right-hand corner and then 2 of them in the lower left-hand corner. And the really small circles are fairly hard to pick up, so I am using my tweezers. Just couldn't decide where I wanted to put the ones on the left. I love the 3 new styles of peel-offs. There's the mini circles, there's mini stars, and also mini hearts. They add some great embellishment without the extra dimension. So there is my finished card, and that is card number 3. Now moving on to card number 4. This is a sketch from OWH. It's number 218. The kit includes 12 recipe cards that are all 4 by 6 inches in size. I decided I want to try to add one to a card, but not use it as a recipe card. So I took one of them and I cut it down to match, well, mostly match the measurements on that larger rectangle in the sketch. I used a strip of this pattern paper in the background that looks like a tablecloth. I'm going to add some of the peel-offs from the kit. I'm using the widest width peel-off, putting it on the edge of the pattern paper for a little contrast and a little extra sparkle. And I don't have to have that top piece go all the way across since most of it's going to be covered up. I'm going to put this card panel onto some cardstock using that really pretty teal cardstock. And for this card, I'm using solid cardstock for that background piece. I'll put my card front onto a card base. Then I can add my recipe card image. And I am flipping the sketch just a little bit. I'm going to have that image on the left-hand side instead of the right as indicated on the sketch. And the reason I did that is because the group of flowers is in the upper left-hand corner. It left that open area down on the right, and so I have a little more space to add the ephemera. So I'm pulling in 3 of the word ephemera pieces and also the stack of mixing bowls. So under ingredients, I'm going to have the words yummy, delicious, and good food. I'll attach the 3 word ephemera pieces using some liquid adhesive. And I'm trying to have just the good food straight on the card, and then the yummy and delicious are a little crooked. For the bowl, I'm going to pop this up using some foam dimension. And I think it would be fun to add the card recipient's name underneath where it has recipe for. And then you could put, well, my name if I was sending this card under from the kitchen of. Then maybe you could include a favorite recipe inside the card, or even the dry ingredients for maybe a type of cookie or brownies. I think it would be a fun gift. The finishing touches, I'm using some more of the mini circle peel-offs, putting a few in the upper right-hand corner and 2 in the lower left-hand corner. Of course, if you really like to make mini albums, those recipe cards would be perfect, or you could just use them for recipe cards in your own cookbook. Now, finishing touch, I'm going to add a little bit of the sparkle to the inside of the flowers on a few of the bowls using that glitter pen. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 4. Now on to card number 5. This time I won't be using a card sketch. I'm going to create a little kitchen counter scene. So I have yellow cardstock, which will be the kitchen counter. I have that really fun tile backsplash pattern paper that I'm going to use for the wall. I'll put a peel off right between the two just for a little separation. I'm using the straight teal mirror peel offs. And then I pulled out a whole bunch of different ephemera pieces. First, I'll put my card front onto a card base. When I first saw all the ephemera, I knew it would be perfect for creating a fun little kitchen scene. I have the container of flour and then a couple unmarked containers. I have the bag of sugar. I have the recipe box with the one recipe sticking out that has yum on it. And then I have a few things that'll be hanging from the wall. So I have a pot holder, the spatula, and the whisk. I'll just lay out all of the pieces loosely before I start adhering anything in place. And for some of the pieces, I'm going to glue directly onto the card using liquid adhesive, and then other pieces I'll be popping up using some thin foam squares. That way it adds a little extra dimension to the card. So I glued down the flour. I'm going to glue down this larger container with the pink top. I'll pop up the sugar and then also this bottle of, not sure what that could be, oil maybe. It's just cute since it has a pink cork. I'll also pop up the recipe box. And then for the 3 things that are hanging on the wall, I'm going to glue those directly down. Now my first thought when I was assembling this card, I was going to put some mini brads through the little hook so it would look like a little nail on the wall. But I completely forgot, and I already attached my card front onto a card base. So no problem, I'm going to use the inside dot from Love From Lizi's Bubbles peel-offs. This is the medium size, so it is pretty small. They're hard to pick up sometimes. Using the gold color since it'll add just a tiny bit of shine. And just a heads up, Lizi recently announced the Bubbles peel-offs are being retired. So whatever is available in the shop is all that's left. If you're really wanting some, I would suggest ordering them before they're all sold out. For the sentiment, I'm using one of the stickers. This is Happiness is Homemade. And I wanted to add a little bit of cardstock behind it so it didn't get lost with that busy background. I think the cardstock also adds that frame so it looks like a picture hanging on the kitchen wall. To finish off the card and add a little extra detail, I'm using Glossy Accents and adding it to the hearts, the berries, the leaves. I'll add it to the wheat on the flour container. And then just a drop on that black part of the whisk. And then I'll use the glitter brush on some of the other areas. Add it to the pot holder, put it on the details on the recipe box and also on the sugar and a few of the leaves. So there is my finished card, and I love how this one turned out. Definitely one of my favorites. But do let me know which card is your favorite. Now moving on to card number 6. The card sketch is from OWH. It's number 146. And this is another favorite card of mine. I have some tone-on-tone teal paper for the background. In fact, all of the pattern paper I'm using is a very tone-on-tone muted design. I have that cream paper with polka dots for the strip going across, and then some yellow pattern paper for that banner. I'll add some teal mirror peel-offs outside that cream paper. I'm not going to layer the yellow banner at all. I think it has enough contrast without any extra paper. Just tuck the ends of the peel-offs to the back, and then add this panel onto some black cardstock. And you can see the back side of this pattern paper has a full 6x8 image. Now for this card, I'm going to use one of the tags, but I'm going to cut off the tops, which is just a rectangle. And I'll add this to some black cardstock. Go ahead and trim that part down. And I love this image. Isn't that adorable with all the little farm critters? I'm going to put some scrap cardstock on the upper portion so it's nice and level on my card. And I did modify the measurements on this card so it would fit my image, and also that cream pattern paper, I didn't have enough for a full 2-inch strip. So I think mine's about 1 1/4, it's maybe 1.5 inches wide. Now I'm going to add some ribbon to the top of the card. I was going to use the charcoal, changed my mind and went with the cream. I'm using an 1/8 of an inch strip of Scor-Tape, attached it to the top of the card, and then I cut out 2 pieces of the ribbon, just a little bit wider than the card. I'll attach the first one, making sure to adhere it to about half of that Scor-Tape on the card. I'll wrap the ends behind, and then use another piece of Scor-Tape to hold those in place. Remove the backing on that Scor-Tape and then put my card front onto a card base. Put a little extra ATG since I have that ribbon on the back side. I will be tying a bow out of the ribbon and attaching it separately. So I'm just going to do a small bow, trying to make sure it's fairly even. And then I'll attach it to the card using a small glue dot. I was going to adhere it in the upper right hand corner. I decided I'm going to wait until I add the sentiment. And I'm using one of the stickers. This is What's Cookin'. It's on this fun speech bubble. I wanted it near that top chicken so it looked like he was saying what's cooking. But it would have been in the center of the card. So I thought I would move the image over, but that wasn't going to work either since it was already glued down. So I just trimmed off that little part of the speech bubble and then repositioned it behind the sticker. And then I'm going to pop a part of it using some foam squares. Since that image box is already popped up, I want to make sure they're all at the same level. And then I didn't want that little piece of the speech bubble to fall off, so I am going to put just a small piece of Scor-Tape to ensure it's going to stay in place. And then I'll attach it to that upper right hand corner. So now it looks like the chicken is saying what's cooking. And then I'll adhere the bow to the upper left hand corner. Then finishing touch, I'm using the mini circles. This is the black glitter color. I'll put 2 of them in the lower left-hand corner and then 3 of the smallest size over on the right side of the image. And I'm trying to line up these 3 tiny circles nice and straight. And in case you couldn't tell, I really like Lizi's new peel-off styles. The circles, the stars, and the hearts. For this video, I'm mostly using the circles. So there is my finished card, and I really like how this one turned out. Now on to card number 7. The sketch is by Queen & Company. I have 3 different pattern papers. 2 of them will be used for the background. I'll have the floral design on the bottom, and then that teal with the florals on the top. Just going to adhere these onto that teal pearlescent cardstock and then also onto some black cardstock for a little extra contrast. For the diagonal stripe in the background, I used a die and unfortunately I didn't cut it out very well. So the very bottom of it, I missed some of that faux stitch detail. But I decided it would still work and I would just cover up that stitch detail. But then I realized I shouldn't have cut those two background pieces in the rectangles. I should have cut them at an angle. So I needed to take that strip and position it so that I could cover up the gap between those two papers. So now I'm going to add some gold straight peel-offs, covering up that little oops on that faux stitching. And as I was adding the peel-offs, then I realized you could still see some of that faux stitching on the left-hand side of the card. And I could just leave it, but it really bothered me. So I do come up with a way to cover that up. For the image on this card, I'm using another one of the tags, and again, I just trimmed off the top, so I just have the rectangle. And this is fun. It's got the grater with some flowers, and the sentiment is grateful for you. So I'm going to attach this to the center of the card, adding that scrap cardstock on the upper and lower areas where it goes over that diagonal strip. Trying to make sure to get it centered. I've recently had several people ask me if I ever make a mistake on my cards, and of course I do. I am not a perfect crafter. I don't always point them out, especially in my 6x6 videos, but I miscut things, I misstamp things all the time. It's just a matter of how can you fix them. Here's how I'm going to cover up that little bit of stitching on the left-hand side. I used the heart die that's included in the kit. Cut out one in the yellow and one in the teal. The yellow I'm going to attach first and have it hang off of the edge of the card. And then for the teal, I'll have it overlap. Just going to put a small piece of scrap cardstock on the left hand side. And then I'll attach it using some liquid adhesive. And it'll go on top of that cut apart or the tag image. Then I'll just flip over the whole card and trim off the extra of the yellow heart. So now it's flush to the left-hand side and nobody will know that I oopsed a little bit when I attached that strip. So finishing touches, I'm adding a few more of the mini circle peel-offs in the upper right-hand corner. Trying to keep them nice and straight. And this is the black glitter, so it does have a little bit of sparkle without any mess. Then I'll add a little extra sparkle using the glitter brush. Put it on that teal heart and also the center of the flower. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 7. Now moving on to card number 8. I'm using one of the wooden tags that's included in the kit, and I wanted to add a little extra color. I have some Distress ink in the tea dye color and also a blender brush. I'm just adding that brown color all over this tag. Really trying to get more of it on the edge and then filling in the center. So it's just adding a little darker color. Now I will be using a card sketch. This is OWH number 183. I have this beautiful floral paper for the background, and then some more of this tone-on-tone teal pattern paper for that strip on the left-hand side. And I layered that using some black cardstock. For the strip that goes across the card, I used some of the red cardstock that's included in the kit. I'll put some scrap cardstock on the right-hand side. And I do end up using 2 pieces of cardstock to get it at the correct height. Attach that to the card, and then I'll use the red peel-offs that are included in the kit. Use the thinnest width and put it along the edge of the red cardstock. The peel-off stickers really are such a simple product, but they make a huge difference on the cards. So they can add that little bit of shine, a little bit of sparkle. You can use them in place of cardstock for those matted layers. Although sometimes I'll do both. I think I just have a huge addiction to using peel-offs and cardstock. I'm just going to add this panel onto that teal cardstock. Put my card front onto a card base. And my ATG tape ran out there, so I did have to go and change it real quick. Instead of that square element, I'll be using this tag. I'm going to use the yellow ribbon that's included in the kit. Thread it through the hole in that tag. And I realized I had a lot of extra ribbon sticking out of the top, so I didn't want to waste it. So I'm going to try to make it a little smaller so I can save that extra scrap. So now there's a longer piece left over that I could use for another project. And I'll put that small piece of Scor-Tape on the back just to make sure that ribbon doesn't slip off. I'll use some liquid adhesive to attach the tag to my card. Since it is a wooden embellishment, I'm using Ranger's Multi-Medium Matte. I find it holds wooden and metal pieces really nicely to projects. Just hold that in place for a little bit. I'll make sure it's going to dry. And then I'll be adding one of the ephemera pieces, this little stack of tea or coffee cups. I'm just going to attach that directly onto the tag. And then for the sentiment, I've already gone ahead and stamped this out. I have a circle die cut, and then I used some colored ink in a pretty teal color. The sentiment is "Whistle while you work." I thought that worked perfectly with the image ephemera piece. I did put two small foam squares on the upper area of the circle where it goes off of the red paper, and then used liquid adhesive to adhere the rest in place. For a finishing touch, I'm using some of the sequins, only using the red color. That background paper is fairly busy, but I think the red still stands out enough. So I'm going to put 3 of them in the upper right hand corner, following the sketch design. And then I'll also add 2 of them on the left hand side underneath that tag image. Felt like there was a gap and it needed just a little something. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 8. Now moving on to card number 9, although it's not actually going to be a card. I used the full image on one of the 6x8 papers and just cut off the sentiment. So this is "Happiness is a kitchen full of family and friends." I have some white pearlescent paper. This was from that pearlescent bundle from last month's add-ons. Layered it with some black cardstock, and then I'll attach this sentiment strip across the lower area of that panel. Next, I pulled out the 12x12 sticker sheet. At the very bottom, there's a scallop border sticker. I'll add it underneath that sentiment strip, and then just flip over this panel to trim off the extra. I love the contrast with the flowers in that black background. Now I'm going to use one of the Sway peel-offs, this pretty peach color with gold foil on the edges. And I'm just going to put a small piece on both sides of that sentiment strip. I had pulled out a full strip, but then realized I had enough small scraps left over. So it's always good to use up those small little pieces since you don't want to waste any of your peel-offs. I'm using an X-Acto knife to trim off the edge, and I think I might need to change the blade. I was having problems cutting through the one on the right-hand side. And I also decided to add a black peel-off between the sticker and that sentiment strip, just for a little extra contrast. I did cut that strip a little wider than the panel, and I'll just tuck the ends behind. So I'm going to pull out that sticker sheet again and use several different image stickers. So I have the canisters with tea, flour, and sugar, I have the teapot. I did pull out the salt and pepper, but I end up not using that one. I selected one of the floral bouquets, and even though I laid the stickers down very gently, since I wasn't sure about placement, I still had to grab my piercing tool to help pull those back up. So I'm going to put the bouquet on the left-hand side. I'll put the canisters in the middle, the teapot over on the right. Then I put the salt and pepper shaker away and decided to use a couple of the small flower bunches. The kit includes 4 sheets of chipboard. These are all 4 by 6 inches in size, and you could use them for a mini album with all of the recipe cards, but I decided I'm going to make this little decoration panel that I could hang in my kitchen instead. So I'm just attaching that panel onto the chipboard. Then I decided to add just a little something extra. I pulled out the mini heart peel-offs. This is the pink iridescent glitter, but I didn't think the pink matched very well, so I changed my mind and went with the gold. So I have 2 of the hearts in 2 different sizes and put them near the teapot. I like the steam coming out of the teapot. So there is my finished panel. Not sure what you would call this, since it's not a card, although you could make it as a card still. So now moving on to my final card. I'm using a card sketch from MFT. This is number 352. I selected 3 different pattern papers. I have a tone-on-tone yellow paper for the background, the red paper with the little white polka dots for the strip going along the back, and then for that larger rectangle, I'm using this busier pattern that has a bunch of shelves with different kitchen utensils and pots and pans and cups. Thought that was really fun. I'll add some of the red peel-offs from the kit on the edge of that red pattern paper. Tuck the ends behind. And I can put this panel onto some black cardstock. It's fun that the back side of that yellow paper is the same pattern as all of those shelves, just on a larger scale. So you do have both options if you want to have that larger design. I'll add some scrap cardstock on the upper area of this rectangle. And then I can attach this to the card. For the most part, I'm following this sketch fairly closely. I'll put my card front onto a card base. I did end up cutting that rectangle slightly larger than what's indicated on the sketch, since I didn't want to cut any of those shelves in half. For the sentiment, I'm going to attach it to an oval instead of the circle, since I'll be using one of the stickers. Put that scrap cardstock on the left-hand side where the oval goes off of the other layers. Then I was trying to figure out if I wanted that oval more toward the top of that rectangle, to the bottom, in the middle. I did finally decide to put it more toward the center. Just put some liquid adhesive on the back and adhere that in place. Then I'll pull out one of the stickers, and I thought this one was so fun. It's got the rolling pin, and the sentiment is roll with it. But then after I attached it to that white oval die cut, I felt like it got lost. So I want to add just a drop of color in the background. I'm using Distress Oxide ink in the scattered straw color. I didn't add a lot, but I think it was enough to separate it slightly from the background. So finishing touch, pulling out those fun mini circle peel-offs. Trying to figure out where I wanted to place them. End up putting 3 of them in that lower left-hand corner. The black glitter mini circle peel-offs are included in one of the add-on peel-off bundles. The 4-pack bundles are always a really good price. And I will have links provided in the description box for all of the products that I use. I just love this teapot die that's included in the kit, but I end up not using it this time. I did, however, use the little hearts that are part of that teapot. So I cut out 2 in some red cardstock, and I'm adding them to the right-hand side of the rolling pin, just for a little extra detail. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 10. Now here's just a quick recap of the 10 cards I made using Love From Lizi's October 2020 card kit. As I'm recording this voiceover, the kit is still available. This is a monthly kit and quantities are always limited. The only way to guarantee receiving a kit is to sign up for the monthly subscriptions. I will have links provided in the description box for the kit and all the add-ons that I used. Now here's everything I still have left over from the kit. 2 full sheets of cardstock and quite a few of the other colors. There's some of the 12 by 12 pattern paper. Not a lot of the 6 by 8 papers left over. I do still have 11 of the recipe cards and a bunch of the tags. Of course, the peel off sheet. Lots of ribbon. There's the stamp set. And then lots of ephemera pieces. I never did end up using any of the clothespins. I do have one of the wooden tags. There are all the dies. Love having all those hearts. There's 3 of the chipboard pieces still left over and quite a bit of the white cardstock. I still have a lot of the sequins. And then of course the 12 by 12 sticker sheet. Lizi really does add quite a bit to her kits. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.